What's going on, guys? Pete Nova here from Player Profiler, and I am joined by Matt Robbins of the FF Mediators. And today we're going to do a 2-round Superflex rookie mock draft. The NFL draft just finally ended, and it's kind of gut reaction time for us. We're going to go ahead and check the pulse and go one by one through each pick to kind of see where we currently are at now that we have some rookie landing spots. So let's just jump right into it. The first pick off the board at the 101 is going to be Ashton Jeanty, right? I don't think there should be much discourse or discussion about it. Look, he lands with the Raiders, he lands with Pete Carroll, and he's going to be in a decent offense, right? This offense added some pieces through the draft, and the offensive line is solid. It's not great. It's not very good. It's average to below average, but it's good enough to get the job done, in my opinion. And look, he's going to get a lot of volume in this offense. This is a good spot, in my opinion, and a spot that most of us pretty much expected for a good amount of time now, outside of the crazy chaos that we saw the day before the draft and the day of the draft with the Jaguars and the Browns and possibly the Bears trading up. But he lands in Vegas with the Raiders. I think it's a good landing spot, and I'm comfortable here with him at the 101. Matt, I'm sure you kind of feel the same. What are your thoughts on this landing spot?
Yeah, Genty's just locked into the 101 for right now. I don't see that even changing as we move forward through the draft process. Yeah, you'd like the offensive line to get a little bit better. They did make some picks in day 2 and day 3 to kind of bolster that offensive line, but I think for now we just kind of keep Genty where he is and know what we're going to get, and that's probably some pretty good fantasy production year 1 because he truly is the guy in that backfield.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so for the 102, Matt, who are you taking at this spot?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a good argument of, do you need a quarterback in a super flex? Because I certainly won't fault you for taking Cam Ward. I know you and I have talked off air on this several times. I'm going with Travis Hunter. I think he's the highest upside player in this class. When you see him going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think there's an immediate role for him. I'm not scared that Brian Thomas is in the offense. In fact, I think it's only going to help him. They each can kind of take some pressure off of each other. Trevor Lawrence gets another weapon. I think it's a great situation for Travis Hunter in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I know recently, since the draft has now ended, Liam Cohen comments from Jacksonville. It seems like he's going to predominantly play as a wide receiver. I think my concerns, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but is there ever going to be a time where he is the number one wide receiver in this offense over Brian Thomas Jr.? I personally don't see it, but look, I mean, Brian Thomas exceeded expectations last year, had a ton of volume and work, and Travis Hunter is a special athlete. I do think Brian Thomas is likely going to be the alpha here, but there's plenty of targets to go around. Evan Ingram is no longer in this offense, right? So that's a decent amount of vacated targets, and Christian Kirk is no longer here as well. So yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter, it's going to be debated all offseason. Him here at the 102, I can't fault you. I think Cam Ward and Superflex is likely going to be the popular pick here, or possibly at the 103. But yeah, I mean, you could argue Hunter or Tet McMillan in terms of which guy is going to be the next skill position player outside of quarterback, or even Omarion Hampton. But at the 103, I'm going to go with Cam Ward here. In super flex, right? Quarterbacks are so valuable, and it's so hard to get young, good quarterbacks, especially with rushing upside. And Cam Ward has just that. I think the special thing about Cam Ward is we see a lot of times with these running quarterbacks that they're always looking to use their legs and take off. But with Cam Ward, one thing that I like about him is he's a guy that, while he can run with his legs and he can hit every pass on all 3 levels of the field, he's a guy that's not always just looking to take off. He's looking downfield to make the throw and not just go ahead and use his legs and take off and run. And I think that's going to provide good fantasy value, even if Cam Ward doesn't have a great year 1, because of the rushing upside and his legs. He's likely going to hold a good amount of his value, even if it's a down year for his rookie season. So I'll take him here at the 103. Matt, for the 104, who do you have here?
Yeah, I think for the 104 here, I'm going to go with Omarion Hampton. Yes, he lands there with the Chargers. They added Najee Harris. It's only a 1-year deal, so I'm not going to let that scare me away from what you could get from a Jim Harbaugh running back that they drafted in the first round. They spent significant capital to go out and get him. He's a do-it-all back, can catch it out of the backfield, really projects to be a three-down back. So I love his landing spot. It's going to be a little bit quiet year one or maybe split carries. So kind of temper expectations. But going forward in the future, he's an absolute smash pick. And I think you couldn't really ask for a better landing spot for Omarion Hampton.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you, right? I mean, look, I know people are going to be somewhat concerned about, is Najee Harris going to, you know, eat into those touches, eat into that workload. But at the end of the day, Najee Harris signed you know, a 1 year, $5 million deal, right? I mean, it's not like he's going to be there for a long time. And it's also, I mean, look, he could get extended, but they're not heavily tied to him. They just spent first round premium capital on Omarion Hampton. This is his backfield, right? Is Najee Harris going to get some work in this backfield? Absolutely, right? Last year, J.K. Dobbins and when Gus Edwards was healthy, right? They both kind of split the touches there, and then J.K. kind of took over the lion's share of it, even when Gus came back after injury. But at the end of the day, Omarion Hampton is a guy who can do it all, right? He has soft hands. He reminds me of DeMarco Murray, just with his play style and his run style. And I think overall, Omarion Hampton at the 104 is likely going to be a guy that you can look at as a cornerstone piece to a dynasty team, even if you're rebuilding, right? He's a young player, right? 22 years old. And yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes. He's right now for player profiler, he's the number 2 rookie off the board, and the number 2 rookie running back, right? Obviously, Ashton Genty is ahead of him in terms of the rankings. But at the 105, I'm going to go with Tet McMillan here. Look, Tet McMillan finds himself in a really awesome situation. He goes to the Carolina Panthers, and I really like the landing spot. 22 years old, and he gets top 10 capital, right? He goes at 8 overall, and that's big. David Canales, we saw what he was able to do with a big wide receiver like Mike Evans, and while Mike Evans had production even before Canales got there, it's nice to see that he was able to utilize him as a weapon in the offense with the Bucs. I think he gets his guy here for Bryce Young and a playmaker. I mean, Bryce Young, look, we had Xavier Legette last year, Jalen Coker, but I think these are guys that we were just steaming up that kind of outperformed. Coker at least outperformed expectations. I've never been a big Xavier Legette fan, but there's a lot of targets to go around. I mean, David Moore had 55 receptions last year. I mean, so when you look at these targets and this offense, there's a lot of meat to be ripped off the bone. And I think Tet McMillan finds himself in a really good situation.
Yeah, fantastic pick. I mean, he gets to be the one there in Carolina. He's not really got any competition stepping into that role. Bryce kind of gets that added benefit of having another target, and at that a big target too. So I think there's a lot to like about Tet McMillan going to Carolina. So great pick at the 105. I think it's fantastic value. But rolling into the
Yeah.
106, Pete, I think I'm going to take TreVeyon Henderson. Running back from Ohio State finds his way in the second round to the New England Patriots. Actually, was the second running back to go off the board, but I'm going to take him first here. I think he's the better player. I like his situation there. Competition with Ramondre, I think he can win out. He's going to have the ability to be on those passing downs. He's fantastic in pass pro. I love his production. I think he's got a really good future there to kind of complement Drake May and maybe take some pressure off that offense.
Yeah, I do want to say with the Tet McMillan take, I did say David Moore had 50 plus receptions. It was 50 plus targets. So just a caveat there. But TreVeyon Henderson at the 106, I think, is the right pick here. Some people will argue Quinshon Judkins. To me, this is an offense with the Patriots that is more stable at the moment. They have their quarterback of the future. They brought in premium talent on the offensive line, right? They spent a top 5 pick on a left tackle, right? They brought in Morgan Moses, they brought in Bradbury at center, right? And overall, it's a new regime with Mike Vrabel. And yes, Ramondre Stevenson was extended with Elliott Wolf, who is still the current GM at the moment, but I mean, he had the fumbling issues last year, and I don't think Vrabel's going to put up with that, as well as this is Vrabel. I'm sure Vrabel had a big hand in picking this player. They take him with high premium second round capital. And I'm excited for Henderson. I think, he's a guy that is what you want out of a running back in fantasy, as long as he can stay healthy, because he does have some size concerns and some health concerns, where he did miss some time in college. But at the 107, I think this is kind of where it starts to be a little bit more blurry, with what players should go off the board here. I'm going to go with Quinshon Judkins. I really like the landing spot for Judkins. I know we just kind of compared him to Henderson, and ironically, they're both Ohio State running backs, but Judkins stays in his hometown. Well, not hometown, but he stays in his home state where he played college football. So the transition should be a lot easier for him, but he also finds himself in Stefanski's offense, which is very running back friendly. I understand they have some concerns at the quarterback position, whether it's Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson, if he returns from the grave at some point. But overall, I still think he's going to get solid work, and solid volume. And they did draft Dylan Sampson, but he's not somebody that I'm very concerned about. I think Judkins finds himself in a good situation with premium capital as well. He got high round two capital, and he was picked at the fourth pick in the second round. So I like Judkins here at 7, and I do want to touch on his receiving ability. Right, I think with TreVeyon Henderson and Judkins, people seem to think Judkins can't catch the football because he didn't catch the football nearly as much as Henderson in this backfield last year. But I think it was more of a product of Henderson was just better at it. That doesn't mean Judkins isn't good at it. We don't know if Kaleb Johnson's good at it because their offense didn't throw to running back. So that's more of a mystery. We've seen Judkins, he can catch the football. It's not that he's bad at it, but they just had a better player there who complemented him in that offense. So I think he's got upside with his receiving ability as well. And so I'll take him here at the 107.
Yeah, and I think even paired with that too is when he did get his limited receiving work, he did well. Several touchdowns, caught most of his targets. So what opportunities he's got, he made the most of them. So I really like Judkins in this situation. I'm with you. I'm not too worried about Sampson. I mean, certainly he's more of a speedster, but Judkins projects to kind of be more just like Nick Chubb, where he's going to come in there and pound the rock and really help move this offense forward, which kind of was dying for some playmakers. So I like the pick there. Like you said, heavy investment by the team. So I'm going to follow the money there. But now I'm on the clock here at the 108. Like you said, this is where the draft kind of opens up and you can kind of go a bunch of different ways. I'm going to go with Emeka Egbuka this time. Give me the wide receiver that went to Tampa Bay. Yes, it's a crowded room, but I think long-term we need to be knowing that his production in college is going to transition to the NFL. He's one of the safest players in this class, in my opinion. There's a lot to like about being paired with Baker Mayfield going forward. Yes, this year might be a little bit crowded, and again, we'll have to temper expectations, but going forward, I think it's wheels up. Mike Evans is getting older. I think his time is running out. Chris Godwin, will he stay in the slot? Will he move outside? That's the big question mark that I have, but I do like Emeka Egbuka stepping into a role and getting some targets in a pretty good passing offense.
Yeah, I mean, Emeka Egbuka, 26.1% college dominator rating, 24.9 college target share, and a breakout age of 19.9 years old. So that's impressive, right? When you look at the breakout at a young age, we try to target that because it's not just like a senior who's beating up on younger players, right? When you see a younger player break out at a young age in college, right? That is something that is encouraging. And with Emeka Egbuka, you alluded to it with him, right? It might not be the best year for him, but he's also behind two receivers who have issues staying on the field and being healthy. So he could see himself on the field. And Jaylin McMillan was the third receiver there. And when he was thrusted into a position where he had to play because there were injuries in that offense to the wide receivers, he ended up going on a crazy tear with, multiple touchdown games, and Cade Otton stepped up as well. So I think this is a very pass friendly offense. And while he might not be in the best situation year one, we're talking about dynasty long term, and this is a really good long term landing spot for him. Now we're here at the 109, and you can go a couple of different ways here. My heart, wants to go with Jaxson Dart because we get the Superflex capital here, and I'm going to go with Jaxson Dart here at the 109. I know it sounds spicy. It might feel like it's a little too high for him, but look, you can't, it's hard to put a price on quarterbacks and young quarterbacks. And I'm excited to see what he does in Brian Daboll's offense. I don't know if he's going to necessarily, be a guy that's going to help you out right then and there year one. We don't know when he's going to step on the field, if that means halfway through the year, or maybe he has a great training camp and beats out Russ and Jameis Winston. I mean, they traded back into the first round to get this guy. And 109 might feel a little bit high, but to me, super flex, right? In a quarterback class that's not very strong. I like Jaxson Dart. I like what he can do with his legs. And I've seen what Brian Daboll does with quarterbacks that can run. And I'm encouraged with Jaxson Dart in this landing spot. He gets there's some pieces now post draft to this offense. And so I'll take Jaxson Dart here at 109. Is that a little rich for you, Matt?
I think it's going to be team dependent, but I'm not going to blame anybody that needs a quarterback. If you have the ability, and maybe this is going to be your QB3, I kind of love the pick. I mean, they traded up to go and get him with their choice of all the quarterbacks except for Cam Ward, and they chose Jaxson Dart. He got that first round capital. So I think that team investment is something that we need to pay attention to. Not to mention, he's tied to Malik Neighbors. I want that pairing because I think Malik Neighbors is a quarterback proof elite fantasy asset, as proven last year. So if Jaxson Dart can kind of reach his potential, then that's pretty good to have a really good running mate in Neighbors. So I don't fault you at all for taking that pick. But again, I think it's just going to be team dependent. But I think that's kind of the situation that we're in here at the end of the first round. Being at the 110, this is kind of where if you're in a tight end premium league, that you can start consider the likes of Colston Loveland or maybe Tyler Warren. Myself here, Pete, I'm going to go with one of my favorite players, and that's Matthew Golden, wide receiver selected to the Green Bay Packers, kind of given the opportunity to be the guy there. A lot of different players have stepped in and not really performed. Dobbs, Wicks, Reed, Watson. It's just been a circle of just pretty much mediocrity. And I think Matthew Golden can be a guy that can elevate this wide receiver room. He's got big playability, yak ability. He's a down the field threat with solid route running skills. Not necessarily have the college production, but a lot of that comes back to Texas quarterback play if you go back and watch the tape. But he has some elite traits for a wide receiver, man, and I'm really excited with the landing spot. I think he's got a lot of room to grow with Jordan Love.
Yeah, I think at first I wasn't necessarily in love with the landing spot for him, but I think overall, the reason that this offense spreads the football around so much is because guys continued to let down in this offense. We were hoping for Christian Watson to step up, right? We were hoping for Jayden Reed, who has a limited route tree, to step up, and it just never happened, right? And then Jordan Love has his gunslinger concerns, but I want a quarterback like that who is not afraid to take risks with the football. And with Matthew Golden, with the speed, with that kind of playmaking ability, like I want him paired up with a quarterback that's not afraid to let it rip and give us those big time touchdowns for big time fantasy points. It's high risk, it's high reward. I'm fine taking Matthew Golden there at the 110. Now we're here at the 111, and you can go a couple of different ways, right? I mean, like we had said, it's team dependent. I'm gonna go with I'm kind of in between. Do I go with Colston Loveland here, or do I allow him to slip and fall a little bit more? I'm going to take a step back, actually, and I'm going to maybe a little bit of a pump fake there, but I'm going to go with Kaleb Johnson. At the 111 here, he gets good capital, right? Day 2 capital. He goes to the Steelers, and I think this is a perfect fit for Arthur Smith, right? I mean, this is the kind of running back that Arthur Smith likes to feature in his offense. There are the concerns about his ability in terms of how capped is his upside. I think we're looking at an RB2 with high-end RB2 upside, right? We don't know how good he is as a pass catcher, and that could limit him. Is Jaylen Warren going to be that guy who is going to get pretty much most, if not all, of the third down work? And that is probably the biggest concern with him. And obviously, we don't know the quarterback situation, but overall, I like Kaleb Johnson. I think he fits well in this offense and what they want to do. And I'm fine taking him here. He's 21 years old. He gets drafted at the 19th pick in the third round. And he's the fifth running back ranked on Player Profiler's running back rankings, which pretty much lands him right here because all the other running backs have gone. And I'm comfortable taking him here. Matt, where do you land on Johnson, and do you like this spot for him?
Yeah, I think this is right around where he'll probably end up going in most rookie drafts. I mean, he slides into basically Najee Harris's role, and he's going to do a lot of the same things that Najee did. They're very similar players. I think it's a pretty good fit because I don't think Warren could handle that backfield or that workload by himself. So we always knew they were going to add a guy, but adding a guy like Kaleb Johnson is pretty good. He gets good capital, and he goes to an offense where we know they're going to run the ball with an okay offensive line. Maybe could get some improvement, but I really like the landing spot. I think it's a good pick at the 111. You're kind of hoping for that fringe RB2, maybe RB1 if you can get there and get lucky. So I like the pick, and it's a good dynasty selection going forward.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
And then you're up here at the 112.
yeah, at the 112, I'm going to take Colston Loveland. I'm going to take the first tight end off the board. He falls to the Bears in the first round, 10th overall. A lot of people thought Warren would go first, but Loveland falls to the Chicago Bears. Paired with Caleb Williams going forward, they added some other pass catchers in this draft class, but I'm not too worried about that. I think that he's going to have the ability to grow with Caleb. He's only 21 years old, so there's a lot to like about his profile and what he could do. Great route runner, strong hands, able to put his hand in the dirt and block. Cole Kmet is not something that we should be afraid of. He might be out there for more of the snaps in the first few weeks, but I think going forward, this is going to be Loveland's job. This is pretty significant draft capital, and I think they're going to utilize him because he's going to be a pretty good playmaker.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, I there's a lot to go around. There's a lot of talent in this offense. And so it's going to be interesting to see, right? I mean, will they allow him to? Is Cole Kmet going to be that Dawson Knox thorn in the side, where kind of similar to that Kincaid situation? Knox is on the field a ton. They did run a lot of two tight end sets when Ben Johnson was with the Lions. I'm tempering expectations with Loveland slightly. I'm not over the moon like other people are with this landing spot. I got to be honest with you. But I think the 112 is fine. It's going to, again, be, is there a contender who's sitting there and hopeful that Loveland can have a good year one that's tight and needy, right? At the 2-1 here, I'm looking at Tre Harris, and I'm looking at, Tyler Warren and Tre Harris, right? I think if you're on a team that is rebuilding, right, at the 101, I'm good taking Tyler Warren here at the 201. I love Tre Harris. I thought about taking him there, but I think at the 201, if Tyler Warren, and now he's in a situation with the Colts where he does get first round capital, top 15 capital, right? But with Anthony Richardson, there's a chance that he doesn't produce the level that we're hoping for, especially in year one. But if Anthony Richardson doesn't perform this year, he's not going to be here this next year. So Loveland going to a rebuilding team at the 201, most likely, right? We're assuming 101 has 201. In that situation, you're not competing this year. So you're fine taking Warren. And I personally think Warren is the better player out of all the tight ends in this class, especially with Loveland. And so if I'm not expecting or needing that production year one, I'm fine with Warren here at 201 and just kind of having a redshirt year with him, right? I think that's totally fair. And I'll take the talent there at the 201 all day.
Yeah, there's a ton of upside to Tyler Warren and what he could develop into in this offense. I mean, they've been searching for a tight end for years. They finally get their guy. The quarterback play, not necessarily the best, but I'm going to bet on the talent long term. So at the 201, if you told me I could get Tyler Warren, I'd be head over heels. So that's a fantastic pick, Pete. I'm here at the 202, and I'm kind of torn between two players, and one of them you already mentioned. Tre Harris is someone I've been on for a long time. I really like his profile. And the other guy is a guy you're pretty into, and that's RJ Harvey. So I think it would be team dependent. If you need a running back, RJ Harvey got second round capital to the Denver Broncos. That's pretty significant. Not necessarily a guy that we thought might get sent there that early, but I'm following that money. And if you need a wide receiver, Tre Harris on the other side, great profile, lands with the Chargers. But for the sake of this mock here, I'm going to go with RJ Harvey. Take the running back just because I think that there might not be many left that I want with this type of capital. So I love RJ Harvey. He's great out of the backfield, runs the ball pretty tough. Sean Payton gets another playmaker for this offense. So I really, really like that with the chance for him to just have that entire workload.
Yeah, RJ Harvey is almost like is almost like a favorite of this podcast, right? Myself and just player profile in general. I know the Podfather Matt is super high on RJ Harvey. It's one of his guys. And for me here, I mean, look, he gets second round capital. I wasn't expecting RJ Harvey to go in the second round. I loved RJ Harvey in this process, but I was expecting likely late day 3 to mid day 3 capital. I'm sorry, third round to mid third round capital. But he gets the second round capital in a running back room that's not crowded at all. And we've seen Sean Payton have many running backs, you know, come be in the top 5 of the league in receptions. And so I'm excited to see RJ Harvey in this landing spot. The age is a concern, 24 years old, right? I think that is probably the least appealing thing about RJ Harvey, but overall, if he can pass block and he can do the little things right on that side of the football, I think he's going to be a very valuable asset in that Sean Payton offense. Moving on to the 203 here, we already talked about him. I'm not going to, do a big lead up. It's going to be Tre Harris at the 203, right? He finds himself in LA with Justin Herbert, paired up with Lad McConkey, now Omarion Hampton. This offense receives a huge facelift, right, this draft season. And I'm excited for Tre Harris, right? I mean, this is a guy who, look, the production, maybe not there or exactly what we were wanting, but this is a guy that excessively beats man coverage, right? This is a guy who his route running and his ability to beat man coverage is something that sticks out. And in the NFL, like, I want guys that are better at beating man coverage than zone coverage, right? And with Tre Harris, I think he gets paired up with Herbert in a really good situation. And I'm excited for Tre Harris. Honestly, this was probably one of my favorite landing spots that we got. And I don't think we got a ton of really good landing spots, but Tre Harris was definitely a big time winner in my opinion. And I love the landing spot with the Chargers.
Yeah, this is the pick that I think I could see rising the most as we move forward through the draft
Mhm.
process. I mean, a great player with a great quarterback. You couldn't ask for much better than that. And a lot of his production was just hampered by injuries last year. He only played 8 games, had over 1,000 yards, and was still first team SEC all wide receiver. So he's a heck of a player. But moving on to the 204 now, Pete. I'm back on the clock. Kind of, this is a tier break for me. So you kind of start to question, do you take Tyler Shough, get that quarterback value there, or do you go with another player? And I'm actually going to go with Luther Burden. Not necessarily my favorite landing spot, but I do like the player enough to take him here. They made the investment. We'll have to see what happens going forward. Maybe this is a replacement for DJ Moore. Very twitchy, going to be great in the gadget and manufactured touch game. Lots of screens in his future, just down the seam route. He's going to find ways to make big plays because he's really, really athletic and one of the best players in open space to force missed tackles. So Caleb Williams with another playmaker in this draft. We'll see how it all comes together because it's now or never for the Bears. But Burden is another long-term play, maybe in the short term, not necessarily the most return.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a guy that I really hated the landing spot like most people.
Mhm.
I mean, if you can get Burden here, I'm fine taking the chance on him. I think personally, I'd rather take a chance on a couple other guys. The talent is there with Burden. I just think it's likely going to be a headache. And it's a headache that I just I don't love. And I'm not really super sold on the talent there. I think there's some weaknesses in his game, with the route tree being a little limited, and he's a little gadgety. But I think he's a good player. I just think I worry, there's a lot of manufactured touches for DJ Moore, right? And so, how many of those manufactured touches could go around, right? Like we're going to see DeAndre Swift likely catch a lot of passes out of the backfield too. And so I worry a little bit about Burden. I really don't like the landing spot outside of the fact that it's with Ben Johnson, who is a creative offensive mind. Here at the 205, I struggle with this one a little bit because I really love Jayden Higgins. I like the landing spot for him. I don't know how effective and strong he'll be year one, but I'm going to go with Cam Skattebo here. Cam Skattebo finds himself with the New York Giants in an offense that I think is kind of wide open, right? I'm excited. This offensive line has made some upgrades, and they had some injuries last year, and also injuries to the quarterback position. I'm excited to see, now we have three capable quarterbacks in this offense. Now, we don't know yet with Jaxson Dart, but regardless, we know that even if one of these guys goes down, right, there's going to be a capable player there to step in to keep the ship moving. And I just like Cam Skattebo, right? I mean, we talked about Tyrone Tracy being a possible guy that's heavily affected. And this was probably, if there was going to be a guy on day 3 that would have been one of the worst people for Tyrone Tracy, it's probably Skattebo, because Skattebo can make his hay in the receiving game. And that's where Tyrone Tracy is very effective. He was a receiver at Purdue, converted to running back. And I do worry about Tyrone Tracy. I love the landing spot for Skattebo. And I think this is a guy that we're going to see touch the ball 200 times this year. I'm pretty excited about the landing spot for Skattebo in New York.
Yeah, he's got the ability for them to lean on in the run game. So it's a really good landing spot for him. Tracy kind of gets the question mark behind his name, like you alluded to. So I'm interested in that running back room going forward to see kind of how they split the carries. But it is definitely scary for Tracy managers. But here at the 206, Pete, I'm kind of still stuck on who I might take here. But I'm going to go with Tyler Shough. I think this is kind of where you might have to pause and look and evaluate your roster and see what it's worth. I mean, this time last year, we were taking Michael Penix in this exact pick, and that turned out to really accrue and net some more value for your team. And I think that's what could happen with Tyler Shough. There's a chance he's the day one starter. We don't know what's happening with Derek Carr, but what I do know is the team went out and invested in him. And so I'm going to follow that, trust Kellen Moore, and see if I can maybe get some more value on this name, whether I use him or move him later on. I think there's a lot of value to gain.
Yeah, Shough is going to be a very confusing player. I think people are going to be all over the place in terms of where they value him. I think back half of the second round is fair. I don't know if I would have taken him here, but the quarterback position, it's extremely valuable, right? Especially in Superflex. And I think with Shough, the thing that makes me the most nervous is this a 1-year thing where this Saints team is saying, we give him 1 year, right? We need a guy, give him 1 year. If he impresses us, sure, we keep him. If not, we hit the draft next year. And I think there's not a lot of insulation with him, which is really what makes me the most nervous with him. But if you're a team that's quarterback needy, this is a very cheap quarterback, right? I mean, I get it. It's still a second round rookie pick, but it's at the most valuable position. There is room for him to grow and gain value. And at the same time, he's a guy that I don't think Derek Carr, I mean, I don't think Derek Carr has been officially ruled out for the entire season, and he may have been, may not be, but it doesn't sound good. Shough has a chance to be the starter for the entire year, and he's mature. He's older, but with that likely comes some sort of presence that's not, the game is not too big for him, hopefully. And so maybe he can stabilize and just be a pulse there for the entire year. And you get some production at a position that is very hard to find. So he's going to be a tough guy to evaluate for sure. I don't think, there's going to be some teams that might even take him higher. And might buy into the fact that Kellen Moore is a very good offensive mind, right? Maybe he gets the most out of him. So I think that's definitely fair. I think with this next pick, I got to go with my guy, Jayden Higgins. He finds himself in a little bit of a crowded room. I would have felt a little bit better if his running mate, Jaylin Noel, in college didn't get drafted here, but he did. But look, Jayden Higgins goes there. He's paired up next to two receivers in Christian Kirk and Nico Collins. And the craziest thing is, if you listen to me, I comped Higgins to Nico Collins a little bit, right? They're pretty similar in terms of play style. I think Nico Collins, is the better physical player, but Jayden Higgins extremely fast for his size, man. I mean, guys his size shouldn't be running a sub 4.540, and that's what he did. So I like Jayden Higgins here. I think Christian Kirk is on an expiring deal. And at the same time, he was hurt last year, Christian Kirk. He's been hurt in the past. Nico Collins missed some time last year. And so the biggest concern for me is more so the pace of play. This offense was in the bottom third in terms of total offensive plays. And so with that in mind, they like to run the football a lot. And they like to play defense. And so I don't know how many times they're going to have Stroud drop back and throw the football after we saw how many hits he took last year with that offensive line. So remains to be seen, but this is a talent kind of thing for me. Like, when you look at the talent, I like it more than the situation. He's paired up with a good quarterback. So we'll see how it goes. But I like Higgins here at the 207. I think it's pretty good value.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's a great combination of size and speed. Not a lot of players have that, so he's got something he can bring to this offense. Biggest winner for the Texans is really CJ Stroud, man. They got a bunch of weapons for him to move forward. And like you said, it's a little bit crowded to start with, but I think Christian Kirk's probably going to be phased out pretty quickly. And we'll see what happens going forward. Tank Dell, probably over for him, but we'll have to see. But here we are at the 208, Pete, and I'm going to take a guy that I think is just a football player, man, and that's Jack Bech. You couldn't ask for much of a better fighter on the outside. Finds himself in a really good situation with the Las Vegas Raiders. Tons of opportunities for him outside. That wide receiver room is not good at all, and he's going to have an immediate opportunity to really get some targets. He's a fantastic run block, too, so you throw him out on the outside, he's going to hit someone in the mouth. Great hands. He's reliable across the middle. Really going to be a good safety blanket for Geno. I'm excited to see what he can do and how fast he can really get into this offense. He's sneaky athletic. He finds a way to break tackles. A little bit of Puka Nacua in his game. I know a lot of people are going to say that. Not quite the same player, but he's got those streaks in him. So I really like Jack Bech and the landing spot with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was pretty high on the landing spot as well. I know we had talked about it offline. I like the landing spot a lot. I think this is an offense that lacks a guy that can go up and get the football, right? Outside of Brock Bowers, who's just a freak athlete and can pretty much do everything. Wide receiver wise, they just don't really have a big body guy, and he fills a need on that offense. So I like the landing spot for Bech, and I think this is a fair spot for him at the 208. Now at the 209, you could go a couple of different ways here. I think, I will go with Jaylin Noel, who, again, we just talked about his running mate, Jayden Higgins. Noel, similar, could find his way onto the field, right? If Christian Kirk is gone, maybe Noel ends up being that underneath player who can stretch the field as well. With Tank Dell gone, Noel has some good speed and can stretch down the field as well. And so maybe he finds himself a role. It's not going to be year one, but I think this is a guy where we've seen many of situations where teams take these receivers in the third round and they end up being better than the guy that they took in round two, which Higgins was the second pick in the second round. Jaylin Noel was the 15th pick in the third round. And Noel is the 17th ranked player on Pro Football Focus's rookie rankings. So I'm going to take him here at the 209.
Yeah, they're just different players. I mean, Noel's going to be a guy that probably spends most of his time in the slot, sneaky athletic, really good with the ball in his hands, finds a way to make big plays. So I like that pairing. Again, I hate to say it again, but CJ Stroud is the biggest winner of all of this. And Noel, I think he's got opportunities going forward. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards at Iowa State, scored some touchdowns, great reception totals. So he's going to be a good, productive player in the NFL, I think. But at the 210, we're going to continue the wide receiver run here, Pete. And I'm going to take Kyle Wiiliams. Drake May kind of gets another target. They've made several attempts to find someone. And I think this is going to be a guy that continues to sneak up draft boards. Really, really electric. He finds a way to get open in space, contested catch. Really, really good in going down the field, double moves, fantastic hands. creates separation. I really love Kyle Williams heading to the Patriots.
Yeah, I like Kyle Williams too. I think there's arguments to be made that Kyle Williams could probably go right behind Skattebo here. I would actually personally like I could make arguments for him to go ahead of Luther Burden. Honestly. I mean, this is a guy that got picked the fifth pick in the third round. He's not the most athletic wide receiver, but we saw him face Travis Hunter. We've all seen that clip of him dusting him off the line. And Drake May could use some weapons, right? And so this is a situation where it's more situation than it is talent. I don't think I don't think Williams is the most talented player physically, but I also think this is a great situation in an offense that lacks playmakers. And so he's going to step in with a quarterback that's looking to take the next step. I think this is really good value at the 210. And there's going to be some people that might be upset because some people are really high on him and should maybe want him to go higher. I think we will see him probably steam up the board a little bit, not too high, but probably maybe a little bit higher than the 210 as the process goes on. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close out with my last pick, and I'm going to take a guy that I've continued to talk about the last 24 hours. It's Terrance Ferguson. Terrance Ferguson, out of Oregon, gets drafted by the Rams, and this is a guy that gets really good capital, right? I don't think many people were expecting Terrance Ferguson to go where he did. I mean, the 14th pick in the second round. I mean, it's really good capital for him for a team that's really been looking for a tight end in this offense, right? The last 2 years in the draft and just haven't been able to land one, whether it's trading up and not being able to trade up, making those phone calls. It just hasn't worked for them. And Terrance Ferguson is a really good athlete, right? Extremely athletic. And I think he fits this offense really well. And I'm excited to see him because I do think he's going to be a guy that can make plays, right? We're looking for tight ends that can make plays, and he's a guy that can stretch the field. I know he was in an offense where, he got a lot of short throws to him in that Oregon offense, but that was more of like, hey, get the ball in his hands in space and see what he can do. And so I'm excited for this landing spot. It's one of my favorite players and one of my favorite risers in this process so far. And I'll take him here at the 211.
Yeah, really consistent play out of Oregon too. Not asked to do a lot. There was a lot of playmakers there during his time, but when he did get his name called, he performed well. I think he's got the athleticism to really continue. It's worth noting that they picked him over Elijah Arroyo, who was quicker, has faster game speed. But the Rams have made a conscious effort to find a tight end, like you said. I mean, they had Colby Parkinson, they had Tyler Higbee, and constantly trying to involve those guys in the short term yardage game, and it didn't really work. And they kept struggling. There was also injury history. So I think going out and grabbing Terrance Ferguson in the second round shows a lot of what they're attempting to do going forward. But
Well, and
as
I
we
do want to
close out
say
here,
too. I do want to
sure.
say too with Ferguson. I mean, 94th in burst score, right, in terms of percentile. Catch radius was 90th percentile as well. And his 40-yard dash was a 4.63. Like, that's a really good 40. That's 86th percentile. This is a really, really good athlete. Pro Football Focus, his best comped player is Brenton Strange, where that might not sound like the sexiest name, Brenton Strange, but overall, another good athlete. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what he does. But Matt, go ahead and close us out here at the 212.
Yeah, at the 212, I mean, there's a bunch of names that I'm sitting here torn trying to make my pick, but I'm going to go with Tuten from Virginia Tech, who finds his way in Jacksonville. A bunch of speed, fastest running back at the combine. He's got a track background and history. So when he finds his way on the field, he is electric. The tape at Virginia Tech is really, really strong. He's great out of the backfield, catch the ball. He can run between the tackles. I do think that it's going to be murky there between Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. But what I do know is that they made the investment to get Tuten early on day 3. He was one of the first picks out of the gate. I think that he's got an opportunity to really step on the field and compete pretty quickly. He's got the speed to kind of make that change in pace and maybe be a Bucky Irving for this offense. We saw what Cohen did last year with a guy like Bucky, and Tuten projects to look a lot like Bucky Irving. So I like the landing spot. It might be a little tough to start out with, but when we're talking about the 212, I'm going to take the swing and bet on that upside.
Yeah, I'm good with it too. I mean, 22 years old, right? So not extremely old for a running back and a rookie coming out. 5'9", 206, 4'3", 240. Speed score was 98th percentile. Burst score was 97th percentile. And when you look at him, I'm excited because this is an offense with Liam Cohen where they love to throw the football to the running back position, and we just saw him with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, who were both really, really heavily targeted in the receiving game at the running back position. So I think they're going to utilize him in the pass game, and I'm excited to see as another weapon for Trevor Lawrence. I think it's really more muddier for Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. So we'll see how that shakes out. But I think it's good value here at the 212. I think this is a fair spot for him. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for watching.